So, a lot of you may be wondering, how did I get to the two witnesses and the birth of the man child in Revelations 11 and 12? I'll tell you how. This all started with my curiosity as to what the meaning of kite hit steel plane must meant when it was quoted in a classroom in front of George W. Bush on the day of 9/11. I was just curious and highly intuitive about what this particular anagram meant and what it could possibly mean if unscrambled, understanding and knowing that there are other languages that are being conveyed when you're looking at certain things that are spoken of on the world stage. So I literally took out a piece of paper and I started to unscramble the words and basically came up with several different phrases that it could have been until I narrowed it down. Now, I kind of got stuck on the part where it was the word pinta, which it could also be scrambled as the word paint because pinta and paint are the exact same thing, but come to find out, there's not much delineation between the two once I got everything unscrambled. So this is what led me down the road of the two witnesses as well as the twin towers being a representation of the two witnesses of Revelations, and how somehow this woman of Revelations 12 is representative of one of the twin towers that was basically ritually sacrificed in order to carry out this agenda basically against these two very powerful individuals on planet Earth. So thus began my journey towards the man child and understanding what that means in the realm. And this was just kind of the first opening door basically to understanding or unraveling this prophecy. And I can tell you over time, as I have gone through various decodes and deconstructed a lot of different meanings, there has been a gradual build up to this point where I am, where we're talking about the moon machine because that came in a dream, in a diagram that I drew out, and that took a few months to actually pin down, and understanding, okay, what does it mean by the woman of Revelation 12 having the moon at her feet? The 12 stars, or the crown of 12 stars above her head, basically being a representation of this machine. So it started from this anagram and it ended up all the way here to Revelation 6:12. I created like a flow chart within this anagram to kind of research each of these words to see what they could potentially mean, as well as just going off the flow of thought off the top of my head of what I felt each of these words could mean. So as I unscrambled this to mean set, unalive, teth, muse, pinta, I went through each word just to figure out what it could mean. And at the time, I didn't even know what the word teth meant or whether it was a real word or not, but come to find out, it was actually a real word. So I knew I was onto something. And of course, the word pinta reminds me of the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Thus began the journey of this rabbit hole of unraveling this flow of thought behind this anagram, and how everything that I've decoded after that kind of flows and falls right into place with this chart. You'll see that it starts with the word Set, and Set is the god Set, the brother of Osiris, who chopped up his body. And as I explained in other videos, that is a representation of the chopped up angles of the third eye, which is basically the chopped up body parts of the OS, or the Osiris, or the operating system of the iris, which is the third eye. It is the different degrees and angles by which you can conjure jinn in books like the Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon, showing you how to use these particular angles or degrees of light that are the chopped up body parts of the operating system of the iris, which is the third eye. So when you talk about Seth, you're talking about Sutek or Sut or Sut on, which is actually a representation of Satan, okay, which we call Satan, but you're literally talking about the degrees of light and the different angles within Grimoire that are the jinn spirits that are used by malevolent beings on planet Earth to, gain power, to control the masses. These are these particular spirits that are conjured up out of the Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon, written by Aleister Crowley. So this is the first clue to me that this was what this flow, or this particular part of the flow, represented. The next part of this anagram is unalive, which I can't say on TikTok without getting banned, but basically everything that was done on that day, which is 9/11, I wanted to kind of create a flow. So it goes from talking about airplanes, air signs, plane being a flat surface, which is pretty much talking about the earth plane or the flat ground. And anytime you see anything in popular media that's talking about a plane, this is all symbology surrounding the earth plane and the representation of power, or where that power is when you're talking about what's being communicated in higher spaces when you're talking about planes. So if you're wondering why we're having all these issues with planes, you should basically learn to decode and understand the larger messages that are being conveyed when these incidents happen on the world stage within this stage play. Then I go into the Vatican and I talk about ISIS, which is a big part of 9/11 or the war on terror, if you all can remember. And ISIS is basically the representation of Isis, who puts back the body of Osiris, which again is the operating system of the iris. So by shutting down the moon machine, this woman of Revelation 12, having the moon at her feet, pretty much restores us to the light, or restores the body parts of Osiris by making all of the light one. By shutting down this machine that kind of carves out all of the light and creates our zodiac, it creates the times, it encases us in matter by creating this light grid, which is what the matrix actually is. She shuts it down and then restores the body of Osiris. This is what the symbology means when you're talking about Set, Osiris, and Isis. Then I actually went into the Vatican and that entire mysteries, to which I have had prophetic dreams, which I will plug in that video here, as well as an entire series on the Da Vinci Code, to which I have interpreted his paintings hiding secret messages regarding the Black Madonna, or this woman giving birth to a child or a lion head baby, okay? As well as this immaculate conception between Jesus and Mary Magdalene, which I broke down in another video that I will plug in here. But this was kind of the preset diagram that I created initially in the beginning last year sometime, that kind of set the stage for everything, or all the light codes that came to me after this. I can pretty much go back to this document and I can circle back and see the path or the pattern that I created here. And I have pretty much visited every part of this diagram as time went on.